In a world constantly in motion, where skies tell stories untold. One channel has the eyes to see beyond the visible. Welcome to Werx. Join us as we track and analyze the movements that shape our reality. From geopolitical shifts to the silent ops that never make the news. Dive deep into this unique perspective where we decode the signals above and reveal the stories they hide. Be part of a community that values truth and transparency, where every flight tells a story. Subscribe and join the mission. Stay aware, stay prepared, and stay vigilant with Werx.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. It's going to be your SITREP. It's 9/26/2024, and we're coming to you live here from the great state of Texas in the Monkey Lounge. So if you would, hit that like and subscribe, regardless of what platform you're watching this on right now. It just helps our channel all the way across everything, especially on the tube. So let's do this. We're going to talk today about what's going on with Israel going super deep into Lebanon. I'm talking all the way up by Tripoli. They're hitting stuff in the burbs of Beirut. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at what is America's posture relative to that. It is everything that I'm seeing is an indication that we are going to go hot in the Middle East. We're putting every asset in the region, but it doesn't stop there. I do think that Russia is still in play. I don't think China piece is something we're going to have to worry about right away, although I do think that they have a very short window if they're going to act on Taiwan, that they're going to make that happen now. But keep in mind, too, that the U.S. just gave Taiwan a whole bunch more money. And we're going to talk about some of that BOHICA stuff, too. Now, if you're not familiar with what that acronym means, BOHICA, it is just basically bend over. Here it comes again. We're going to look at the treason going on within our own government. I'm going to show you what's happening there. And then also, we're going to talk about Kamala. Is she actually de facto president? I say de facto. Is that a word? De facto. Okay. Anyway, is she the president? And I'm going to show you something that's pretty compelling that indicates that, yes, she is actually calling the shots. We'll have to watch this, but they haven't said anything to anybody, and I think they're trying to keep this under wraps, keeping it hush-hush. But this is a very interesting thing. You remember the Biden piece where they produced a document that he didn't sign that basically made him just cave to what the deep state wants? Yeah. I think that was some serious blackmail going on. I think they probably said, you either do this or we're going to release everything and throw you to the wolves. So let's see what happens. It wasn't a coincidence that Hunter came in with a guilty plea and changed it from not guilty. He did that because the timing of all of it. He needs somebody that's going to basically give him a clean slate. And Biden can do that, but he has to be convicted in order for him to pardon him. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's get this party started as we jump on over here. We're starting off in Skyglass. I've stripped out about 150 roughly trainers. And we are going to just kind of strip this back just a little bit. I'll show you what's going on here. C-17-wise, you can see a little bit active, but not the big piece. The NAs, we got 31 of those up. Several of those I do track. Those are going to tie into the balloons and everything else. We drop down. This is where it starts to get interesting. We've got 15 KC-135s. Notice there is a big gap in this general area relative to the air refuelers. They are definitely going to be moving a lot of the assets out of the panhandle, all right, and then getting them out here probably deeper into the interior of the United States. So you will see some traces here in just a minute kind of indicating that, all right? Okay, so this is your air refuelers across the U.S. It's kind of a low number, 19. That's actually lower than our average of 25. But again, a big indicator of fighter movement, all right? So we're talking tankers. Let's just jump on over here to them right now and just take a look. Notice that the transitions across the drink have thinned out, all right? That's a big indicator that we've got everything in place in the Middle East. Notice, too, that there's a lot of activity kind of up towards Norway, over Sweden. And then you can see it dropping down into the Middle East, some broken traces there. You see this one to the left or west of Moldova. That's a Russian, pro-Russian territory. And then, of course, you can see the breaks. Look at how they go around Israel, right? They fly in and they go into Amman, Jordan. Again, this is air refuelers. And you can see one that bounces into Gibraltar. And then if we get in a little deeper into the United States, notice you got some activity there out over the Gulf of Mexico, which is a little bit shocking, but I guess you still got to run the traps. Look at the left coast. Absolutely insane. Very busy and active, as well as the northern coast, right? Okay, let's talk watch list for a brief minute here. Just remember those rings. Those are visibility rings. That's kind of where they're looking now. If they have that over-the-horizon technology on there, it'll be far greater than what we are seeing in terms of the rings. But they're really kind of parking out over those swim lanes that the marine traffic comes down the left coast. And then you can see them along our border. And that's going to be one of the NOAA birds out there running the traps for the hurricane hunter stuff. Then you can see the balloons over the center of the United States. And then that one, that's the Trumpster, right? As he is on the move again this morning. I'm not going to go into details of where he's headed, anything like that at the moment. But and then, of course, you can see that's the Russians going into Kaliningrad. They've got to go all the way around that horn because they're not allowed to fly directly over the country to get into Kaliningrad. And then you can see some drones and balloons, more Russians there over the Caspian Sea, I believe that is. Okay, now let's just look at R-135s. And you're going to see, again, over that ship lane traffic, they're very concerned about what's passing our left coast, okay? And then, of course, the usual right there over kind of the Midwest, and then broken traces. So we got something that looks to be heading out of Alaska out towards Japan, Okinawa, R-135 wise. And this is all SIG-Intel, by the way, not the nuke sniffer. And then notice that they're kind of going around Norway and Sweden and Finland, just kind of parking, doing some laps there over Finland. And then kind of in that Malta area near Crete. And then notice they park that right up to the border, side looking. So they're definitely looking into Lebanon, okay? And then last, we're going to look at the AWACS. Notice that, too, is out over the tip there of Alaska, between Russia and Alaska. Remember, these are nukes, looking for nukes. And then over that swim lane again, right there is the lane going off the left coast, same place the R-135 was, out over the North Sea, and then pretty hot and heavy over Germany, right? As you can see, then down both north and south of Germany, you can look at the traffic coming out of France down towards Spain, and a little bit of that broken trace, and then a round circle there over the kind of the heel of Italy. And then that little man in the middle circle there on the southern end of Poland. All right. That's going to be your AWACS. So let's get into some of the news here, folks. This is interesting times, to say the least. First and foremost, I do want to show you as we kind of looking at the weather. This is one of the Russian forward locations there, very close to Alaska. This is the Bering Sea. That's ash, volcanic ash, and that is an alert. That will, depending on the jet stream, make its way more than likely out here over Alaska and even over probably Canada, maybe some of the U.S., but that is, it'll dissipate unless it just keeps blowing. But that's a big ash cloud. That's an alert for pilots, not to fly into it. All right, now, nothing surprising here. This is Hurricane Helen, expected to bring catastrophic and deadly storm surge into the Florida area there of the U.S. Now, we'll just bounce over here and take a look at where it is on the latest. You can see as of 7 a.m. today, it's still a Cat 1, but it looks like it's strengthening, and they're expecting between here and here, there's your little eye wall, for that thing to get to a Cat 3. That's the projection. Still looks like it's going to come in to the Panhandle area Again, all of this in here, this is where a lot of your fighter activity and jets are, training. There's a lot of base stuff there, as well as over here, and they will be very likely moving these assets out of the region and deep up into this area. So if you're in those areas and you see fighters, that's going to be why, okay? All right, and don't forget, the Germans are down right here in Barbados, and watch this storm system as it starts to strengthen and develop, okay? And then you got this one here. Looks like it's going to actually hook out. Okay, let's get over to the story of the day right here, and that's going to be this whole dealio is before it was announced, the PM told mediators he backed the 21-day Hezbollah truce, but that's not the case. In fact, the story originally was that they backed away from what the U.S. was actually bringing to the table. It just didn't benefit Israel on any level. But yeah, they're getting deep. We're going to look at this closer here right now, all right? So check this out. Well, let's go over here to this before I show you that headline. This is where we are relative to Israel popping things off. Way over here, directly across from me at the very bottom, those little blue icons are going to be Gaza Strip. You get up here above my head where it says Haifa, and then all of the blue dots as they start to go on. Right where those blue dots are above Haifa, that's the southern end of Lebanon. As you get a little higher and you see the orange icon, that is Beirut. As you get a little further, you start getting towards Tripoli and you start getting close to Turkey. That's going to make Turkey extremely, extremely nervous. Now, that is important because that goes to show you that the IDF is now, they have penetrated deep into Lebanon. Pay close attention because there are a couple things here that come to mind. Zechariah 12, which is the cup of trembling. If you're not familiar with that verse, I'm just going to hit it with you real fast just so you understand what it is I'm talking about. But Zechariah 12, 2-3 says, "Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut to pieces, though all people of the earth be gathered together against it." So this Zechariah 12 basically talks about a time in the future when everybody basically goes against Israel. And I think we are right there on the cusp of that, all right? Now, look at this statement that came out of Flashbang's mouth. This was yesterday. He says that he is warning of a full-out war in the Middle East, but says that diplomatic solution is still possible. Nah, it's not really. Nobody's listening to Biden, and that may be because he is not in charge, all right? Let me show you. We're going to read this, and then I'm going to get into who is in charge. Just as, this is Erdogan, by the way, just as they stopped Hitler, so should Netanyahu be stopped. The fact that they are comparing Netanyahu to Hitler is just incredible to me. Remember, he is a member of NATO. Also remember that he is very tightly aligned with Iran and Russia. And he also just committed in October of this year, they're going to be joining BRICS. That is going to be a big to-do because they are in NATO, and that is not going to look kindly to NATO. So you may see Turkey bowing out of NATO in the coming months. All right. All right, here it is. Israel rejects U.S.-backed Lebanon ceasefire proposal. Yeah, they're just saying, look, this ain't going to work. And the sad thing is the United States is pressuring Israel, and they're basically withholding support. And case in point, you'll see in just a minute where we have authorized more money to Ukraine and $0 to Israel. Now, why are we funding a war in a foreign country with a continuing resolution to fund our government and keep the lights on with our government? That to me is treasonous. I don't know how you get away with that, but, would you be surprised any other way, right? Okay, now remember that these two did not meet with Netanyahu when he came over. They basically shunned him, turned their back on him, which is a really bad deal. Trump met with him, but look at this. It says that Joe Biden says he delegated everything to Kamala Harris. That means foreign policy to domestic policy, the whole shooting match. Now, you go, well, so Joe's really not in charge. We saw Jill running a cabinet meeting, and now you've got this coming out where he's actually made the statement, which you know that his handlers weren't happy with that. Let me show you something, though. Very, very, and I repeat, very unusual. You see the seal that's in front of her right here? Right here. What does it say? Seal of the President of the United States. Do you know it is extremely rare? Extremely rare. No, in fact, it doesn't happen. A vice president does not stand in front of the seal unless he is accompanied or she is accompanied by the president. Joe's not with her. Look on the campaign trail. Look at every time she takes a podium stand, it says the seal of the President of the United States. I got to tell you, folks, I think she's been deemed president. I just don't think the general public knows about it. I think they would freak out if they knew this lady, who, by the way, if you go look up her parents and you look up her upbringing and where she was from, et cetera, all of her story doesn't jive. In fact, her mom is Indian. Her sister is Indian. Yeah, go look at the father. He's not African-American, not to my knowledge. Her husband may be, but this lady is Indian. She's not African-American. The reason she won't go and say she's Indian is because she has nothing to gain from that. She's going to try to use the black vote, right? Hopefully they're on to that. They realize they're being duped, okay? All right. Speaking of more treason, look at this. Congress passes a stopgap spending bill after failed Mike Johnson gambit. This is another guy who needs to retire. But look at this. This is where it gets kind of crazy. And that is the fact that, remember that Mike Johnson came forward with a solution that had to do with the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act basically says you cannot vote in an election unless you show proof of U.S. citizenship. They stripped that from the bill, and then they pushed in, on top of that, $8 billion in funding for Ukraine, as well as carrying on the government. So let's see here. It would push the government spending deadline to December 20th. I say shut it down. Don't really care. Okay, let's get over here to what's going on with the NOTAMs. You can see we got a box here. This is going to be basically over that hurricane area. That is because we've got hurricane hunters in the region. Now, you look up and down the left coast. This is that danger box area. This is the shipping lane that comes through. This is why you're seeing the R-135 and the AWACS doing work here. That's why you see the balloons parked out here. All right, those are the two that really get my eye. This is the Germans still doing and conducting weather atmospheric research out here, right? Well, they're really not there. They're up here in Barbados, as are their flights. In fact, let me just show you. This is where their flight is. Very, very far away from that little location, okay? In fact, it's closer to the storm. So just want to point that out when you look at Barbados versus way down here. All right. Now, I do want to show you, before we get too far into this, let me just show you what Omni and what Global X have been up to. Global X are moving the migrants around, all right? This is going to be Global X. I just want to show you going into Denver, and then notice in and out of Phoenix, but then notice, too, the border locations. They're moving folks across the areas of the border. Notice they're not in the Del Rio area. That's where I believe that Bob Marley, Kamala, is going to be heading. Of course, she's going to show up and say, oh, there's nobody here. It's all good. Now, the other people that are embedded in this are Omni, and I'm starting to believe that this Omni piece that's going into this region, right? You notice they kind of go in and out of Amman, Jordan, and then down into UAE and that general area. And then look at this one into India. I think these are migrant moves or illegal moves, right? They're bringing them. And this one here in that little pinch point of Istanbul, I don't think it's troops. I think that's another station, just like Ramstein, where they're basically staging illegals. Now, these other ones that go up into Denmark and Norway and Sweden and Finland, that's going to be troops. But most of, or maybe about 50% of what we're looking at today are going to be illegals there. All right, now look at this movement here. See the border towns? See Mexico? You see Haiti? Mexico, Haiti, right? And then notice into South and Central America. Those are going to be illegals, bringing them straight into the United States. So when Bob Marley shows up on the podium and says, you know, how great it is and that traffic is at an all-time low, whatever it may be, as she's the border czar and has been for the last 3.5 years, just keep in mind that they're bypassing the border. They're flying them straight into the interior of the United States, right? All right, here are the Brits. You can see them rolling in and out of Cyprus, and then that's currently over Crete, and then another one rolling back into the region. But you can see most of the flights originating out of the UK, kind of all heading down here into the Middle East and the Med area. Moving on, you're going to notice here, this is going to be... this is the England side of the house. Just to show you, look at the amount of flights that are coming in from RZE Poland. All right. That's a big key takeaway there. And then notice that one's headed into Bucharest. What else do we have? I think Griffin. I don't know that. I was thinking that was the Germans, but it wasn't. Maybe Ascot. I think that's a U.S., but that could be British. But yeah, it's a pretty active board there in England. Most of it headed into either Europe or the Middle East. We do have a couple flights that look like U.S., but this is going to be the NATO Support and Procurement Agency. You can see they got 3 flights on the board. I'm going to back this up just a touch. And you can see kind of in and out of Europe. They are a little more active than what we typically see with them today. And the Germans just cycled through. It's only got 1 on the board. It had 8 when I first looked at it about 30 minutes ago. Notice this one's coming out of Europe, and it's headed over to Canada. Oh, Canada. Headed to Goose Bay. See a lot of UN stuff up here in Goose Bay, don't we? All right. And then this is Ramstein, Germany, since we're over there. Just note the blue and white showing up. Notice the camber flights coming in, 747s. From there, you got C-17. You got this one going back to Baltimore, Washington. This one headed to Seoul, Korea. Another C-17. That's a UN flight. Interesting. So the UN coming out of Constanta. All right. I think that's a UN flight. Pretty confident it is. But all right. RZE. This is your forward operating base. This is Ukraine right here, Belarus up here, the Crimea out here, right? But big key takeaway here is just going to be, you got NATO inbound. Let me just look to see if there are any others to catch my eye. It's been a little bit slow. We're probably just in between cycles. They're probably hitting on days we're not doing this. So I see some Brits in. Not a lot of activity from the wide bodies bringing stuff, but you will see an uptick because we just approved a bunch of stuff. So we'll get into that now. Okay. Check this out. NATO prepares mass evacuation and rescue plans as senior general warns of World War III with Russia. It's getting close, and you're going to see based on the spending that it does certainly look like we're headed that direction as NATO gets prepped. Bouncing on over here, Biden announces an $8 billion, your Bohica, by the way. $8 billion, get off my screen, military aid for Ukraine. So in the midst, and this guy, all of these are just, they should all be in jail. But that's just my commentary. I'm sure you all feel the same way. But yeah, $8 billion in military assistance. You remember before Obama exited how he just sent a whole pallet of actually an aircraft with pallets full of money to Iran. We're seeing the same stuff here. You'll watch, these folks will be sitting fat and pretty here pretty soon. Well, they already are, but they're going to be really fat and pretty. And then the U.S. unveils an additional $375 million weapon package for Ukraine. You can see the guy shooting a javelin out of there, but just unbelievable. He shows up, panhandling once again. He knows his days are numbered. If Trump is allowed to get in, I don't know. I'm really starting to think that this is just ain't going to happen. I think they're going to do what they did last time, quite frankly. But let's just watch as they pump more money in, okay? Doesn't just stop there. I don't know if you saw what was going on up here above my head on this board, but it just says that Australia urges more than 10,000 Australians in Lebanon. Why are there 10,000 Australians in Lebanon? I have no idea. That's $1 million question, but basically not to wait, take the opportunity to leave while they can. So yeah, I think Lebanon's going to be the front where all of this goes down. But we talked about U.S. funding, and then here you are, you got it again. Germany announces a $445 million military aid package for Ukraine. In addition to what the U.S. just did, it's the insanity just never stops. Look, we're going to war. They know this is coming. It's probably part of their plan. So stay frosty, folks, because I do think we are on the cusp. We got about 40 days until the election. And there's no telling what is going to shake loose between now and the next, 40 days. So I think when we get in that 30-day window is when we'll start to see some very big, bold moves by the powers that be, so to speak. All right. Well, listen, that's going to do it for today. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. For those over in the live chat here on Patreon, stand by. We'll be kicking that off here in just a minute. You guys be safe and keep that powder dry. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Artisan handcrafted soaps. Get yours in the Monkey Werx shop today.